I was paid to put on a killer show.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
All right. It is Lighthouse Shock Jock number 6. And I'm doing it again. A really long intro that is almost 45 seconds long. In fact, even more than 45 seconds long. And I do it with a purpose, right? It's to drive away the Zoomers. It's to drive away anybody that doesn't have an attention span longer than 30 fucking seconds from their little TikTok videos that they scroll tee-hee funny video. Oh, boy. All right, work out of that. Work out of that. We got all the hate out last episode. Don't worry. It's all gone. In fact, this episode is going to be nothing but positivity. Trust me. I got nothing but positive things to say on this one. It's only going to be good stuff, everybody. It's only going to be good stuff. Trust me. That's all it's going to be. Just positivity, nothing but just fantastic things to say. In fact, I have plenty of compliments to give out towards people. Let's see. Do I actually have any compliments to give out? No? Not really? Still negativity? No, not really. Not really. The funny thing is that I was actually, it's been like 2 weeks since we did the last episode, and I don't know why, I was fairly nervous to record this one, and I'm not quite sure why. I think there was some kind of negative energy that came from letting out all of the hate in a catharsis type way. I don't know. I think I invited negative energy into my like immediate fucking energy space or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. There was something that was making me really nervous to record this episode, and I don't know why. Turns out that I'm doing it once again. It is 4:30 a.m. on the night of the super blue wolf, blue giant moon, or whatever. Also, made it through the hurricane. Okay, by the way, just in case anybody cares, in case anybody out there, no, I didn't drop dead from the hurricane. I'll talk more about that in a little bit because I don't know. Everybody just seems to go fucking crazy when it comes to hurricanes. It's Florida, baby. You'd think we're used to this by now. You would think everybody would be ready, but no. So on today's show, I want to talk a little bit about fear, right? Now, you've probably seen it on the thumbnail because I did something a little bit differently this time, which is that I made the thumbnail before I recorded the episode. Oh my God, I know, who would have fucking thought? Is that even possible? Can you do that? Yeah, turns out I can. Funnily enough, I'm really leaning into the fact that, we're recording a fucking podcast and I can do it in whatever order I goddamn want. It's 4:30 a.m. and I'm fucking yelling. Thankfully, I have no neighbors to wake up. Now, actually, I do, but they're fat and disabled, and I honestly don't really care. They're fairly far away, though, so there's no way that I'm going to wake them up, right? Not like in an apartment building where, if you scream really loud, then the people upstairs and the people downstairs will get mad at you, and they'll, bang on the wall. They'll do that thing that they do in the fucking cartoons where they take a fucking broomstick and they'll like just jam it up against the ceiling and go, hey, you're up there? Quiet down. As if anybody cares. Most of the time you're doing that, it's probably fucking. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about fear today because I've been doing some thinking, right? And there are a lot of changes that need to be made in life. You'll probably recognize a lot of this stuff, too, especially if this is something that, you know, may be stopping you from making the change in life that you really need to enact. And I've been doing some thinking, and the thing that stops a lot of that stuff is at its base level, on a psychoanalytical level, it's fear, man. It's fucking fear. And I'll talk about some of the stuff that, you know, I've been working with, and maybe it'll help people kind of overcome the fear that you're facing in your life, right? So that way we can all improve together, right? As if I'm hoping anybody listens to this. Again, that's not true. Like, I'm specifically doing this podcast project because I hope people don't listen. In fact, stop listening. You probably already stopped listening because the intro took longer than 30 seconds, but see, that's what other podcasts won't tell you, right? Other podcasts will do all this fucking engagement farming bullshit where, you know, they try and do the hottest take possible with their fucking pre-recorded ad read intros. I'm actually actively telling you to stop listening to this podcast, right? That's the difference between me and every other podcast is that, you know, I hope you press that X button right now. Do it. Fucking do it. I dare you. Try me. Anyway, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, I got to do... Well, let's see. We'll do some housekeeping first. Then we will... by we, I mean I. Sitting here by myself, doing a one-person fucking podcast where I have a conversation with myself. There's somebody out there somewhere, I'm sure. I don't care. I don't care. Again, press the X button if you haven't already, please. Am I boring you? Good. Press the X button, Zoomer. Plenty of people probably actually did it. And you know what? Good on you. Good on you. So I'll do a little bit of housekeeping first. Then I'll talk about some of the stuff that happened during the storm, by the way, because we did get... as much as, again, trying to stay anonymous, which is inevitable that will, I will be doxxed eventually, just based on the shit that I say, and I'm going to say, and have said. But I do want to talk about some of the stuff that happened in Hurricane, oh God, what was its fucking name? Idalia? That just plowed its way through Florida. Again, you would think that we were used to storms by now, but apparently not. There were still idiots out there. But that's just the law of humanity, though. There are always idiots out there everywhere. And I don't know. I have a hard time dealing with that. Still haven't fully accepted it. Still have general hatred for humanity. But again, only positivity tonight. Only positivity today. I'm teaching everybody how to do a thing that I'm still figuring out how to do, which is break through the fear. Find out what's on the other side of fear. Ooh, reference to the thumbnail that I made before recording the episode. It's almost like I'm a professional. God, we're already 10 minutes into this. So we'll talk about some of the storm stuff, I guess. I suppose. And let's see, what else was I going to get to? Where the fuck are my notes? We're going through this live. I'm not editing this out, by the way. Not editing it out because I don't care. Oh, yeah, some of the stuff that I'm afraid of, storm stuff, all that shit. Oh, yeah, I took a day off work to go watch the sunrise on the beach. It was actually quite nice. And it's kind of why I'm in a fairly good mood. Couldn't be that I did that thing that I tweeted about on X where I'm fucking up my sleep schedule and sleeping through half of the workday when we work from home in order to go to the gym at 3 a.m. Kind of just got back from that, and still feeling it's fucking pumping, baby. I don't know. We'll get to all that at some point eventually, but first, gotta do some housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
You there?
Come back later, please.
That's what I'm saying.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
So this will be the last episode. It took me a long time to come to the decision to do this, but it turns out that when it deals with listening to music, the YouTube algorithm has got me pretty figured out, man, especially when it comes to like introducing me to genres that I just didn't think I would enjoy. But I don't even know how the YouTube algorithm recommended this to me, but it reminded me of its latest recommendation, which is the intro song for tonight's show. I don't know how the fuck YouTube knew. I don't know how they knew. But first of all, I finally found a song that I think would be appropriate for the permanent intro to the show. And I'm still working on it, though, because it's going to require some editing. I'm not editing the song itself, but, I'm working on editing kind of like a old radio show style intro. Look, it sounds stupid now, but just trust me, for the next episode, I'll have it done, okay? And you'll hear it, and it'll be great. It'll be huge. It'll be fantastic. You've heard a lot of intros before. I can't even do the fucking Trump voice. Look, I've seen his mugshot so many goddamn times on all the fucking social medias. You would think that would make it even easier to do the voice, channeling the energy of that mugshot. Look, you've all seen it by this point. It's been, what, a week? I guess if you're listening to this months down the road, this is literally the end of August, where Trump has just been arrested and history has played itself out as God intended. I don't know. That sounds bad. I'm a little scared of what's going on. But anyway, regardless, what the fuck was I doing? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Housekeeping.
We're doing that. Intro song. Permanent intro song coming soon. I just got to work on some editing stuff for it. But the intro that I used for tonight's episode, especially in order to antagonize the zero attention span Zoomers, because A, why not? And B, it reminded me of being in college, right? And what I used to do is, I guess I was a night owl for basically my entire life, right? And one of my best friends in college, who I still talk to today, lived with me for a summer, and we had this strange habit. I had it beforehand, but I poisoned him into adopting this habit as well, which would be that we would stay up all night and watch this is how lame my college experience was. Okay, just imagine this for a second. Look, most people in college, right, what you're probably doing is you're staying up all night, you're partying, you're having a damn good time. Maybe just going to find all the college girls that you want to fuck and bring them back to your place and just have a good time. But you know what I was doing? I was staying up all night watching Game Show Network. What? It was fantastic, though. And I really, really enjoy what Game Show Network did, like in the real middle of the night, when the old infomercials used to come on. If you're like a boomer like me, I say boomer as a 30-year-old fucking person, but that in internet years, 30 years old is basically boomer territory, right? I think. But if you're a boomer, then you probably remember the time when, at like 3, 4 a.m. on a lot of cable networks, what would happen is that the infomercials would start to play rather than whatever regular programming there was on that cable network. Like, I remember it, staying up all night, watching fucking Comedy Central in high school. back when, I thought Jon Stewart had a functioning brain and was not just a fucking regime mouthpiece, some pseudo lib intellectual. Has anybody watched his new show, by the way? It's fucking terrible. It's fucking terrible. He's one of those, like, fake fucking limousine liberals that, refuses to practice what he preaches. But it sounds good on camera, so let's put him out there. Stephen Colbert's worse. I watched like one episode of his show the first year that he came on, and when the gloves were off, man, when he could say what he really wanted and didn't have to play a character, god damn was it terrible. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, fucking Game Show Network. So instead, what Game Show Network did, instead of run those infomercials at 3 a.m., what they would do is they would run like old, like 70's episodes of Game Show. Hold on, let me see if I can find Match Game. Like, this was one of the ones that they did, right? And Gene Rayburn was the host of, like, Match Game. It had, like, 71 or 72 or whatever fucking year it came out in. Match Game 74! And then they had that fucking really funky 70's disco style intro song that had, like, insane fucking bass lines to it. Love bass guitar, by the way. And I don't know. I was so addicted to those shows. And half the reason that I watched those shows was just like to hear the fucking music, like to hear the intro music and to hear the music in between, like when the contestants would give the answers and when the celebrities would, like, give their answers, I guess. It's a little bit hard to explain. In fact, here, hopefully I don't get fucking obliterated from YouTube for this, but here's some of it. Old, see, it's even got the Game Show Network logo on it.
B for Betty. Okay, who does not play?
Well, here's some of this. Now, the host was Gene Rayburn, and apparently Richard Dawson was the host. They showed this at like 4 or 5 a.m. too. They showed like really old 70's episodes of Family Feud. And, now that Steve Harvey's on it, he's got some moments, but at the same time, Steve Harvey has got the game, like the hosting game, down to a science, where what he'll do is he'll coax like some goofy answer out of one of the contestants, and then he'll do that like huge overreaction. The I can't believe he said that. Wow. And, it is so fucking modern day. And don't get me wrong, I love Steve Harvey, by the way. I think Steve Harvey's great, but it captures the energy of today in a way that like perfectly encapsulates why I hate the modern day, right? Which is how everything is about, engagement baiting, a fucking stupid reaction out of people for fucking engagement, basically. And I'm not saying that, I'm not doing that boomer thing where I'm saying like, oh, the old days were so much better than this. But back when it took like being an interesting person to be a celebrity and not just being a fucking influencer because anybody could have a camera and a microphone. Look, don't get me wrong. I realize the irony of that statement being a fucking literal nobody that's talking into a microphone. Don't get me wrong. I get it. I get the irony of it. But back when I think back, or what made Hollywood so like fun back then was the fact that it took actually being interesting in order to be a celebrity, and it didn't come with that aura of, hey, anybody could be a celebrity now, all you need is your 15 minutes of fame, because media was so controlled and so like, I don't want to say isolated, but I don't know, it took a lot of magic to get somebody to actually be noticed by a bunch of people. And maybe that's just a roundabout way of saying you actually had to have some modicum of talent to be a celebrity. I don't know if I'd go that far, but anyway.
Here it is. When King Kong went to the photographers,
So apparently,
was-
I'm gonna pause it again, and I know you're screaming at the camera right now, saying, "Just play the fucking video! Just play the video!" Look, in order to do actual React content, you have to react to the content rather than just fucking sit there and let it play. Look, I could do that. God knows I want to just let this video play and take a hit of my vape that I'm staring at. By the way, you know what I did today that is causing me this was the last straw, by the way. This was the last straw that made me decide, all right, you know what, I'm fucking quitting vapes. I already spent too much money on them. I was so addicted to them. And this thing that happened today caused me to finally realize it, which is that I was in the bathroom, right, just taking a piss. Normal, everyday piss. Jesus fucking Christ. The cats pick exactly when I'm choosing to record the show in order to be the most fucking obnoxious because they want attention. I don't even know what that sound was. What are you doing, cat? Anyway, so what I did today was I was taking a piss, right? And while in the middle of doing that, right, I like to kind of multitask. So I go into the drawer, grab a Q-tip. Look, I get it. I know you're not supposed to do this. I know you're not supposed to fucking clean your ears with Q-tips, but it's so goddamn easy and it's so fucking satisfying. And I'm not buying one of those stupid ass Instagram ad like wax cleaner outer things. I don't give a shit. Okay, look, if it pokes my brain and I get brain damage, so be it. You know, we're all gonna fucking die one day anyway. But so I had my vape in one hand and I had my Q-tip in the other hand because I can't just take a fucking break. I can't just take a piss without needing to take a hit of a vape, right? And this pissed me off so much that I decided to quit right there. That this is over. This is my last vape. That while in the middle of taking a piss, right, I was cleaning my ears with the Q-tip. Oh, and it was so fucking satisfying because I haven't done it in a couple days. And it leaves a little bit of buildup, right? You know how good that feels? And I'm autopiloting so fucking hard. I got my like vape that's kind of shaped like a Q-tip in one hand. I'm not turning the camera on for this. Sue me. And I've got my Q-tip in the other hand, cleaning my ear, right? So I'm done with it. I'm autopiloting as fuck. And what I do is instead of throw the Q-tip in the toilet and flush it, which again, I know you're not supposed to do that either, but you know, we're about to sell the house and I don't really give a fuck. That's a problem for the person that buys it. I don't care. But instead of throwing the Q-tip in the toilet, my dumbass throws the fucking vape in the toilet, and I don't realize it until I hear the plunk. And, you know, oh my God, fuck. Did I just throw my fucking vape in the toilet? Thinking it was the Q-tip. I just bought it today, too. I just bought it that fucking day. Spent $20 on two of them. Don't get me wrong. And then the other one that I bought was... Okay, so when I go to the vape shop to buy vapes, I'll get back to this video in a moment. Look, we're getting a good little close-up of Gene Rayburn back in the glory days, 1977, so that we can hear the music. I'm honestly leaving the video up to remember that, you know, that's what I was talking about. What was I just saying? I don't know. I'm still kind of antsy because I drank half a fucking C4 before going to the gym and it still hasn't worn off yet. Got a good fucking pump out of it though. God damn. Anyway. So, oh yeah, so the second vape that I bought that I get for 2 for $20 at the vape shop, you know what they do? What's a good idea is to test them out before you leave, right? Because once you leave, it's a no refund policy. And, you know, you just spent all your money on a vape that probably doesn't work, so you test them out before you leave. And I test out both of them. They work fine. But it turns out that one of them that I got it wasn't a dud there. It hit like 3 fucking times before I left the vape shop. And then on the way home from the vape shop that I drive fucking 40 minutes to because it's one that I have reward points at that I get discounts from every now and then. And I also like talking to the people there. There's some hot people there that I enjoy talking to of both genders. I'm going to move past that. But it fucking died on the way there, or on the way home. So there's one of them. The other one I threw in the fucking toilet today that I just spent $25 on, actually, down the drain. And so that was the catalyst to get me, you know, I'm done with this shit. I spend too much fucking money. Literally, like, every 4 or 5 days, I'll go spend $25 on 2 of them. Just because I'm fucking addicted. God damn it. And every time I go 4 or 5 days without one, I think, all right, you know what? This time I'm really done. This time it's all over. This time I'm fucking over this shit. Then I'll have some kind of a mental breakdown or like be really stressed out about something 4 or 5 days later and decide, all right, fuck it. I need to hit a vape right fucking now. So needless to say, I have like 4 dead ones sitting on my desk right now that I can occasionally get hits out of, even though they're dead. Just because I'm too scared. Oh, back to the theme of tonight's show that I'm still vamping to get to because it's a hard conversation. We'll get to it after the break, I'm sure, given that it's the main point of the episode. Look, we seem to have established a pattern on the show, which is where the first 30 to 45 minutes of the show, I just rant about stupid shit going on in life. And then the second segment of the show is where we actually get to the meat of what I say the show is going to be about. It's a nice 45-minute on-ramp period, right? You know, that's how we get there. That's how we get there. We need some time. Anyway, so I don't know how YouTube knew that I very much would enjoy the 70s, like, disco style, really funky bass line type music. That's kind of like because it reminded me, and I don't know how YouTube fucking knew this either, but it reminded me of those days of watching old Game Show Network, old 70s game shows that I very much enjoyed watching. And brought me back.
It's too big to sit on their pony.
I'll just start this clip over.
Betty, would you like A
Not
or B,
talk
my
through it.
dear?
B.
B for Betty. Okay, who does not play? Fanny does not play. Everyone else
Well, that's
does.
not fair.
70s women were so passive.
Here it is. When King Kong went to the photographers, he was too big to sit on their pony. So instead, Kong blanked the pony.
Very edgy, too.
King Kong.
This is what I would watch for, by the way.
My glasses on and everything.
When King Kong went to the photographers, you're not playing. When King
Betty
Kong
White
went
was
to
on a couple of
photographers,
these.
He was too big to sit
R.I.P.
on the pony, so instead Kong blanked the pony. Come on now, write something, Avery.
Look at how distinct and full of personality all these old celebrities
Now
have.
he's writing. When King Kong went to the photographers, he was too big to sit on their
This is
pony.
definitely
so
not
instead,
rose-tinted glasses.
Kong blanked the pony.
He ate it.
He ate the pony. What's wrong with that?
Also, this did not have the music that I was anticipating. They must have changed it in between seasons. Usually what would happen is like while the celebrities are writing down what they think the answer is or what they think that, you know, the contestant's going to say, there will be some like really funky old 70s disco like bass line playing and it like oh god, that was exactly it. Don't clip that and use that against me. Or do, I don't care. But it reminded me of the YouTube playlist that the YouTube algorithm fucking recommended me today, and I decided to use one of those songs in it as the final random song introduction. Also, it helped that it was like 45 seconds in before the drop, so I could weed the Zoomers out. Weed them out. Very, very long 30-minute roundabout way to get to that point. But we got there. Eventually. You know what else I really loved? And Family Guy captured this like almost perfectly. Let's see. Richard Dawson. Oh yeah, here we go. Family Guy captured this perfectly. Where what I would do is I would watch those old like 70s episodes of Family Feud where Richard Dawson was the host, and I don't know how he would get away with this, right? I don't know how he would get away with like literally fucking tonguing all of the female contestants, right? Because I guess that was just an okay thing back in the 70s, right? Which is that, you know, he was a very important guy, and all the women just wanted to be with him. All those passive 70s women that didn't want to make any waves. That's definitely how it was. They captured it perfectly though, and I don't even know if I could.
It's time for the family feud.
Yeah, this is a.
Introducing the Callahan family, ready for action.
They use the old theme too.
And the Griffin family.
It's great.
On your marks, let's start the family feud with the star of Family Feud, Richard Dawson.
And it seems like everybody knew it too.
Thank you very much. Ah, you're lovely. I haven't heard that much applause since Bob Crane premiered his home movies in my closet. All right, let's play the feud.
Everybody must have knew it, right? Because
100 people surveyed.
it's
Top
such
four answers on the board. Here's
an
the
important thing
question. Name something you find in your bathroom.
in like the
Sink.
cultural
Go a
zeitgeist.
sink.
All right,
Peter, 3 answers on the board that can
where's
beat
the good
that.
part?
Name
Oh, here we
something
go.
you
This is the
find.
part that.
Oh, this must be your lovely wife.
Oh, I've been waiting for this for years.
Oh yeah, see, look at that.
I want to be your pinky ring.
See, they get some things right occasionally. And that was just how it was back then, right? That was just how it was back in the 70s where, you know, Richard Dawson could get away with fucking tonguing all the wives and their husbands would just sit there and get cucked and watch. That's how it was. Better times. Better times. All you had to do was just be a very important person back before you just got Me Too'd. Oh, man, I love it. And all it took was a YouTube algorithm to get me to go down old nostalgia memory lane of sitting at 4:59 a.m., similar to what we're doing right now, except back in college when I was going to Florida State in Tallahassee, who got drilled by the fucking hurricane, apparently. Good for them. Good for them. They needed a hurricane day. You know, really snap themselves back to reality. That's all it took was a good little YouTube algorithm recommendation. And it really, like, opens me up to genres that I didn't think I would like. Or that maybe I haven't listened to in a very long time, even in the pre-YouTube days. This was part of, like, 150 song playlist of, like, old style, like 70s game show music, and it was great. It was fucking great, man. So anyway, what else do I have to talk about in the variety segment? I guess if that's just how we're gonna do the show, if that's just how we're gonna formulate the fucking show, I guess. Sure. So what do we want to hear about first? Do we want to hear about, oh yeah, I guess we'll talk about the storm. Because Hurricane Idalia, again, I still don't fucking know its name, and it was a really stupid name. I don't know what it is in the last couple of years with Florida and I-lettered storms, but supposedly it was heading right for us, right? And you would think that we would be used to this shit by now, but no, of course, we're not. And as I mentioned on Twitter, which you can follow at...
Housekeeping.
I guess we're still doing this. Funnily enough,
Housekeeping.
just played a Family Guy clip and a Family Guy sound effect. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, housekeeping. Fuck. So, holy shit. I'm still looking at that paused video like it's still up full screen on my screen, and I can't stop. I can't stop, man. Let me close this shit. I'm not editing this out either. Oh, yeah. So on Twitter, the last thing that I tweeted, right, which you can find, it's the only social media that I'm on, at Lighthouse_SJ on Twitter, or X now, I guess. I'll get to using that more regularly. It's just, I don't know. I'm having a hard time, like, thinking of clever things to tweet, I guess. I don't know. I know you're not supposed to take it super seriously because it's fucking social media, but I don't know. I'm probably just overthinking it. But anyway, so the last thing that I tweeted about, right, was about fucking up my sleep schedule to go to the gym at 3 a.m., which also just so happens to cause me to, like, sleep through half the workday, which, I mean, who cares? I'm about to make a major life change anyway, which, in a certain indirect way, kind of hope I get fired, honestly. But I mean, funnily enough, I still can get all my shit done in like 2-3 hours a day. Who cares? Who cares? But I'm not trying to like ramble on about life here. So there's a phenomenon that I've noticed that we all do, right? And I noticed this while doing a little bit of hurricane storm prep because it was out there. I didn't lose power at all. Nobody that I talked to really did. But supposedly it was a Category 3 hurricane that hit Florida. Tampa got it really bad. We didn't. All I'll say to avoid complete and absolute doxing is that we were in the path of the storm, but not in Tampa. That hopefully doesn't narrow it down at all. And you know, if anybody wants to check the fucking path of the storm in the attempt to dox me, fucking so be it. So be it. I don't care. It's going to happen eventually. Plus, there's going to come a time where I will turn the camera on and then it'll be even more inevitable. But so I was out doing a little bit of storm prep, right? And since I am up at 3 a.m. to go to the gym, right, I'm usually awake at 6 a.m., which is when Walmart opens. So yesterday morning, I decide, all right, let me go do that thing that everybody does, which is where they panic and they go, oh my God, I need to go buy all the toilet paper and all the fucking bottled water. Didn't need that. Instead, I had to go get stuff for the cats because they were out of cat litter, so I needed to go get some kitty litter and food and, I don't know, a couple things to get through the storm, I guess. I walked out of there paying less than $30 worth of shit, basically. I was just going to Walmart at 6 a.m. to get stuff kind of for the fun of it and to just go take a ride at 6 a.m., even though I'm already going to take a ride at 3 a.m., and that's even more fun because it's the forbidden hours and I love it. But for some reason, at 6 a.m., I'm pulling out of the neighborhood, right? And there's this guy. This is the morning, like, right before the storm is supposed to hit. So the storm is supposed to hit in approximately, like, 24 hours from when I'm going to Walmart, right? If that kind of sets the stage here a little bit. So I'm pulling out of the neighborhood. And in order to pull out of the neighborhood, there's one lane and there's a gate that, you know, you have to drive up to. And you know how those fucking gates work, right? Where you'll drive up to the motion sensor, it'll raise the gate, and then you fucking drive over the speed bump and just pull out, right? Pull out. They didn't do that in the 70's. That was a terrible joke. I will recuse myself from the show now. It's over. But anyway, so I was pulling out of the neighborhood, right? And for some reason, everybody's been driving like a complete fucking moron lately. And I say lately, but I mean like this started right around the time when COVID ended and we were all allowed by the regime to go back out into the public. Our good Lord and Savior, Dr. Anthony Fauci Christ of Nazareth, finally decreed that we were allowed to go outside again. And so we did. And that's when I noticed that everybody started to drive like a complete fucking moron. And Random sidebar, by the way. For some reason, I don't know why people are doing this, but when I'm driving on like a 2 or 3 lane road and there's somebody that's driving like right fucking next to me or like right behind me for literally 5 fucking miles, I'll drive in the same lane because I just want to chill in one fucking lane. I don't really care how fast I'm going as long as it's kind of roughly the speed limit or like 5, 10 over maybe. Sure, that's fine. But for some fucking reason, and I don't know if this is because this is the Zoomer's first experience out there on the road driving. No fucking idea. Cannot explain what is happening here in these people's heads. But for some fucking reason, what either the Zoomers or the old people in Florida are doing is they'll drive in, let's say in about 5 miles from the lane that they're driving in right now, they're driving in a 3-lane road. Picture this, okay? Picture this. They're driving in a 3-lane road. They're driving on the right lane, either in front of me, behind me, next to me, whatever have you. And in 5 miles, they have to turn left, right? They have to turn left. They have to get into a left lane in order to turn left. Now, what'll happen is, rather than like, okay, maybe 1 mile down the road, keep in mind, I'm driving with these people for like fucking 5-10 miles on the same road. And so many fucking people do this. This must be a phenomenon. Again, this is not just an anecdotal thing. I would not even talk about this if this was just like a one-time experience. But I see this like once or twice a day, man. Once or fucking twice a day. But I'll be driving with somebody in the right lane and like not even less than a quarter of the mile before they have to get into the left lane on a 3 lane road, what they'll do is they'll wait until literally we are about to we're stopping, we're braking for the fucking light where they have to turn before they'll decide, oh shit, I gotta veer over. Hold on, I have a sound effect for this, I swear to God. Maybe. Still. Shit, I think I might have deleted it. Who cares? But what they'll do is, when we're pulling right up to the fucking light where they've got to turn, that's where they decide, oh shit, I gotta get over 3 fucking lanes in order to turn, and they'll fuck over everybody else that is driving right next to them, because they've decided that, you know what, hey, no, let's not slowly do this. Hey, let's not think, hey, maybe in like a mile or so, I've got to turn left, so let's start getting into the left lane. Maybe let's transition to the middle lane, and then we'll transition to the left lane so that we can get into the fucking turning lane. No, what they'll do is, and again, if this was only a one-time thing, I would not be saying anything about this. I would not be ranting about this at all. But it is not a one-time thing. So many, I see this like 2 or 3 fucking times a day, 2 or 3 times a day, and I don't get it. I don't get what the fuck is happening here, where they'll decide, like, less than a quarter of the mile before where they have to turn, they'll decide, oh shit, I gotta veer over 3 fucking lanes in order to get to the turn lane. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Can you not, decide maybe a mile farther back? Like, what is happening? Is there a logical explanation for this? There's no way all of you are fucking Uber drivers that have just gotten like a new fucking ride, or a stupid ass DoorDash driver that's trying to stay in your game, man. There's no way. There's zero shot that all of you are one of these people that, a quarter of a mile before the light starts, they all of a sudden they get a new ride or a new fucking delivery and go, oh shit, I gotta turn left. 0% chance, 0% chance that this is what's happening 100% of the time. No shot. So, anyway, this is not just limited to storm driving either. I've noticed this in the last year and a half-ish, since we got back from COVID. I don't know if this is just a Florida thing. Please let me know, by the way, if this happens where you're at and you're not a Floridian, because this is not just old people doing this either. It's just like fucking little Zoomer kids that have the fucking broccoli hair. Everybody's doing it. Even like middle-aged people that are probably coming home from work after a fucking terrible day on the job. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. What is happening here? What is going on in the psyche of the person that decides 0.25 miles before the turn that, oh shit, I gotta veer over 3 fucking lanes, and I don't care if it's 5 o'clock on a fucking busy-ass road. I don't care. I gotta do it. I'm gonna cut 4 fucking people off. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Why are you doing this? Anyway, so coming out of the neighborhood today, when I was going to, not today, but God, I guess this was 24 hours ago now. Shit, now that it's 5 a.m. Fuck. My passage of time sense is just out the window. But I was pulling out of the neighborhood, right? And for some reason, since this is just a one-lane like road to get to the gate, right? I get stuck behind, and I have a very long road to get out of the, not very long, but like kind of like a quarter of a mile to get out of the neighborhood, right? And so I get to like halfway through that road in order to get to the gate to pull out of the neighborhood, and a truck that is hauling like this giant ass trailer that has a fucking window unit sticking out of it that's got 4 flat tires on the left side and then like 2 flat tires on the right hand side. And, you know, the guy that's at the gate is yelling at them like, hey, you have a flat tire. And then some fucking Zoomer kid idiot that literally tried to, like, in a 1-lane road that drove over the grass just to get in front of me, but still behind the trailer. And I almost wanted to fucking ram his ass if I was feeling spicier that day, or at least yell at him or some stupid shit. It was some Zoomer idiot. It was literally some fucking Zoomer kid idiot with broccoli hair. The Zoomer broccoli hair kid was also yelling at this guy, and this guy was like a fucking meth head crack addict that had the unhinged meth jaw. You know how that is. That looks like his fucking teeth are like over biting his whole fucking chin. It's crack face, you know. Guy had total crack face. I don't get it. So, and you could tell that this was one of those people because he was, I guess he was just completely unaware of what was going on, right? And that guy, of course, had his blinkers on, was driving as slow as you possibly fucking could, added like 10 more minutes to my 5-minute trip down the road to go to Walmart just because I had to drive behind him the whole fucking time. And that got me to think, right? Look, all you had to do, man, all you had to do was just leave 1 minute earlier. All you had to do was leave 1 minute earlier, or you could have even left 1 minute later or 2 minutes later and like missed the light and maybe have been able to, once you got on the main road, maybe have been able to like pass him and not even have to deal with this experience at all. Because you get to that like kind of self-victimization when you get in one of those situations, right, where you're in the exact perfect timing to be in a terrible situation, right? And I had to like kind of live in that and settle in that for a second before, you know, you get to thinking about it holistically, right? It's easy to look at a situation like that and go, wow, you know, the exact timing of this situation resulted in the worst possible outcome here. And you get to thinking that, oh shit, this is the worst possible thing that could have happened at this exact time. And of course, this had to happen to me at this exact time. And it's easy to fall into that pattern, right? And you think of all of the times that tends to happen, right? And sometimes it'll lead you into believing like that you have bad luck or something like that. It'll lead you to some sort of self-victimization mindset, right? Where you get enough of those like unlucky times where you're in the exact wrong timing for something annoying or something bad, something like that to happen, where, you know, I'll get stuck behind that one fucking trailer trash crackhead idiot and go, wow, if I had pulled out just a minute little detail, if that had a minute little detail had just gone a little bit differently, then I could have avoided this situation altogether, right? And it's easy to rack up a bunch of those situations. And here's something that hopefully might help you stop yourself from like completely freaking out and completely going down a spiral where you think, oh, how the fuck does this always happen to me, right? Because, you know, you let that happen, you sit in it for a little while, and you think, wow, there's no way that shit like this could always happen. But here's the thing about that, right? And if you look at it from an intellectually honest point of view, then what you've got to realize about stuff like that is, sure, it is easy to rack up all of the times that the bad stuff happens to you, but it's also easy to forget. And I would bet that this happens more often because you don't think about it when it happens, right? Where you will maybe have something positive happen to you by being in the exact right place at the exact right time, where, maybe if you had, or you could have like avoided certain disaster that you might not even know about by having done something at an exact right place and an exact right time. Like, I'll give you an example of that. A couple years ago, I saw a motorcycle guy when I was going to go, God, I forget what the fuck I was doing, but this was when I was living in a completely different city in Florida. I witnessed a motorcycle guy, I think, that ended up dying afterwards, because I saw the story on the news, funnily enough, where I saw a motorcycle that was driving in front of me. I saw him, like, I guess, accelerate a little too fast and ram himself into a car in front of him. And he did like like the motorcycle, like it was like in a fucking movie, man, where the motorcycle like lifted off of the ground, front wheel first, or no, back wheel first, where it lifted off of the ground completely, catapulted that driver out of the fucking motorcycle, and he just fell into the middle of the road, and the motorcycle like fell on top of him, and a whole bunch of people had to stop. Like, I stopped and called 911 and said, look, okay, this just happened, man. And of course the 911 dispatcher told me, yeah, we know, we've got like fucking 3 calls already about this. But look, I just had to do the right thing in that situation. Stopped, pulled over to the side of the road, called 911 just in case. But you think about that, and obviously that is very unfortunate for the motorcycle driver that died, right? Like, obviously I feel bad for the guy. I tried to do as much as I could. And this was one of those situations too, where like the guy in the car in front of him was getting out, and he was crowded by people trying to help him. And like one more person, if I were to stop and get out and try to do anything to help, like one more fucking person is not going to do anything there. There's already like fucking 5 people surrounding this guy trying to help him. Too many cooks in the kitchen for that. But the thing that, you tend to not think about, right, is, okay, what if I had been like maybe 30 seconds earlier? Or like, what if I had maybe driven a little bit faster and made that last stoplight instead of got caught by the stoplight, right? That car that the motorcycle fucking accelerated into, that could have been me. You were so fucking close, just a little oodle of timing away from having that be you, right? And a fuck ton of those situations happen all of the time in life, where you just have the exact right timing and the exact, like, what am I trying to say here? Like, things work out, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And you tend not to think about those times when things work out. You tend more to think about the times when things don't work out because of a very, very specific timing. And, that goes back to that whole fucking getting stuck behind the crackhead truck guy, which is that, if I had left 1 minute earlier, I could have avoided this whole fucking thing, could have avoided the annoying ass broccoli-haired Zoomer that tried to cut me off too. And just to get ahead by one fucking car when there's one lane and the gate is opening up and it only opens up for one fucking car. Shit like that, right? And that's, I guess, a lesson here to kind of take away from this, if there's anything to be taken away from this, if there's anything of value to be taken away from this fucking podcast at all. Not saying there is, but just in case, there might be. Which is that, maybe take some time to kind of appreciate when, and I've been doing this a little bit more lately, and it seems to be working out a little bit better for my mentality, right? Take some time just here and there, occasionally. I'm not saying you have to do this every single time or all the time, but take some time sometimes to appreciate when things go right. And you might not even notice it when it happens, right? You might just be randomly going about your day and it might just be a normal ass day, right? But it turns out that maybe at certain key points and periods in that day, you may have just avoided certain disaster for something that you might not have even known about, or something that you're not even spatially aware could have happened in any particular moment, if that makes any sort of sense at all, right? So take some time occasionally, appreciate, be thankful for those moments. That way, you know, you're allowed to kind of sit there and steep in it. That way it makes it okay to sit there and be negative whenever you do happen to get the unlucky time, right? Just little something that as my voice completely breaks there, just little something to kind of think about and consider there for a moment. Look, I said I was exuding nothing but positivity on this show. God damn it. Anyway, so I'm going to take a break, and when we come back, I'll talk about the fear. I'll talk about the fear stuff, because the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think about fear as pretty much the source of all of life's problems. And I'm going to kind of break that down a little bit and try and not only convince you guys, but also convince myself too, that the things that you want in life are on the other side of fear. And if that makes any sort of sense at all, or if it doesn't, then maybe I'll help it make a little bit of sense. So I'll take a break. We'll come back, talk about some fear, because I already made the fucking thumbnail, so we got to do it. I was going to make this a shorter episode, but I couldn't help but fucking rant about Game Show Network for 20 minutes. You all knew what you were getting yourselves into. Anyway, back in a sec. All right, I'm back. Still no rejoin, as I mentioned last time, because they're cringe and they represent something that I hate about terrestrial radio. Now, I am not quite sure why I did this. I talked about this in the last segment, but even now, especially because we're about to get to the thing that's like more difficult to talk about, I was nervous again before I even pressed the record button. I sat here at my fucking chair for like 30 minutes, just in silence, dreading pressing the record button. Not really dreading pressing it, but more like, oh fuck, it's about to get real for a second. Well, for hopefully not more than the next 30 minutes, because I accidentally rambled for like 55 fucking minutes, almost an hour last segment. And I got to keep them at an hour and a half so I can post them on Twitter. Or, I'm sorry, X. X now. Got to post them on X. Thanks, Elon. Got to X it out. I guess that's what tweeting is called now. Anyway. So, I don't know. Basically, what I want to talk about in this last segment, right, which is going to be, well, it's supposed to be the meat of the show, but it turns out it's going to be a little bit less long than fucking ranting about what I would think is funny shit, is, oh, I forgot to take this off the screen, but this is going to be kind of tangentially related. This is a good thread, by the way, and I'll use this as like a lead-in to talking about a little bit of fear, right, because that seems to be the common thing. Now, when I go back and re-examine some of the like trauma that I've experienced, especially given that, you know, at a certain age, you kind of start to re-examine your life, right? You start to think, oh shit, how did I end up here? Whether or not you're in a good place or a bad place. And obviously I'm not that happy with the station that I've ended up in life. And that sounds like it's taking a lot of the personal responsibility away. But don't get me wrong. I am very well aware that I'm completely responsible for where I'm at this point in life. And especially as I started to kind of go through that and dig a little bit deeper as to why that is and like where it all went wrong, man. Where did it all go wrong? it turns out that a lot of the sources for where things went wrong ends up being fear and succumbing to fear. And that's been a very common theme for a lot of the I would say stuff that I've been thinking about improving lately. Not that it's just as easy as like, you know, snapping a finger and going, oh, congratulations, you're not scared of anything anymore. You're just a fearless fucking warrior that's ready to draw the sword and go at life exactly how you want. Now, the reason that I picked this thread as kind of an interesting one, an interesting thread on Twitter/X, which I'll read it out to you, but you can see it on the screen. I put it up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube or if you're actually watching on Twitter/X. This is from an account called @SorceryLightSG, called Sorcery of Light. That's his name. It's a very, very interesting kind of esoteric spiritual account, which honestly, the more that I read that side of Twitter, the more it seems to make sense. The fact that it relates to kind of the energies of the world, right? And how you as a person relate to kind of reality and both the designer of reality. It's one of the things that kind of converted me into a little bit more religious of a person, right? It was a sense of just general esoteric spirituality that eventually kind of transformed and molded through a series of coincidences that, again, since I don't believe in coincidence, I talked about this, I believe, on the last episode about, the term, like, escapes me right now, even though it was so fucking important. Oh, God, what was it? Do I even really want to go check? Not coincidences, but... And not anomalies either, but... Oh, God, fuck me. I'm not even going to edit this out. The fact that a term that was so important is just completely lost. You know, I swear to God, I'm gonna look this up for a second. Still not gonna edit it out. I'm just gonna sit here and fucking vamp. Yep, just gonna vamp, people. Oh no! All right, I'm definitely gonna have to edit this out now because I just opened a fucking YouTube video on my phone with myself. Synchronicities. That I remembered it before I fucking scrolled down. Why does that always happen? Anyway, whatever. So these synchronicities, right, that you experience in life, I experienced a little bit too many of them in a short span of time to not think that there was some kind of extra spiritual / religious component to life. And I picked this thread in particular. It's called, it's basically a thread on the super blue moon that is out there. God, it's actually 6:30 now. And the sun is starting to come up. But earlier at night when I was going to the gym, I saw it. The super blue wolf moon that's out there. Where's my fucking sound effect? It's out there. Trust me. You know what a good podcast host would do? They would just completely scrap the last 6.5 minutes and start over. But instead, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. In fact, maybe I will. No. It took enough bravery and courage to even start pressing the record button in the first place, right? So I'll talk about how this thread kind of relates to fear and what I want to really talk about with that in just a moment. Because, again, as I mentioned earlier, the more I go back and try and, like, break down various periods of life, the more the answer that jumps out to me, right, is the fact that, you know, the things that you desire, the things that you are even, like, you feel is necessary in life, the reason that they escape you is because you're afraid to go after them. And I relate that to the super blue moon a little bit because it has kind of a spiritual component to it. And I don't want to say this thread, like, spoke to me in a way, but it kind of did. And this thread basically talks about how within the occult, a super blue moon is a powerful event, right? It occurs on the evening of the 30th, which is, I guess technically it's the morning of the 31st now. But, you know, it's happening currently right now as we speak at the time of this episode, or at the time of the episode being recorded. Gives a little bit of background on the supermoon, like how, like basically the supermoon is when the moon is at the closest point of its orbit to Earth, making it larger and brighter. It happens once every 4 months, or that's what a regular supermoon is. Now, the super blue moon refers to the second full moon in a month, and a full moon cycle takes 27 days, so a month usually does not have more than one full moon, right? So from what I can gather, this occurs only once every 12 years, according to this thread. And the fact that it happened twice in 1 month, which actually does make sense. I do remember there being a full moon earlier this month, too. So now then it goes into a little bit of the spiritual significance to it. Now, this gets into more of the esoteric spiritual component that I was talking about earlier that I have been tending to, I don't want to say latch onto in life, right? But the more that I read about it and the more that, you know, I just kind of see, the more that I see how the world operates, the more all of that stuff tends to like make some sense to me because it explains a lot, right? Now, the super blue moon, I guess, is a manifestation of this particular type of like occult spiritual energy. And this goes back to, I'll relate this to fear in a second, because this super blue moon is basically a chance to, if you're into that kind of astrology / spiritual stuff, I get that, you know, it kind of veers on like fucking women astrology territory, but I don't really think it's entirely exclusive to them, right? I think that there's something that you can take from this. Basically, the point of all of this is that today, in particular, so if you missed the super blue moon, you can take listening to this episode as a chance to maybe start this process, right? And part of it is that it brings peak energetic energies, according to the thread. And one of the things that it provides you with an opportunity to do is to kind of cleanse yourself, right? A lot of people are talking about fasting on the super blue moon. I did today until I got back from the gym, which I guess August 30th I fasted, but today technically 6:30 a.m. this morning, or it was a little bit earlier. I had a banana when I got back from the gym just because I was fucking starving and needed something. But I did do a 24-hour fast yesterday after reading this thread, honestly, because part of it is to cleanse yourself of negative energy. It symbolizes completion, according to the thread. Thus, use this time to forgive and let go of any past grievances, mistakes, etc. And the way that I'm going to relate the thread about the super blue moon to fear, right, is that when I hear the word past grievances and mistakes, the very first thing that comes to mind for me is succumbing to fear. And I would argue that succumbing to fear is probably the thing that we as humans do the most. And I know this is fairly common knowledge, but fear tends to be the most powerful emotion. It tends to be the thing that moves you into either thinking a certain way or doing a certain thing the most. It's the strongest and most powerful type of emotion. It's why, like, the people in power use it so dearly to control us, because it works so fucking well. How many times have you done something or not done something because you've been afraid of it, right? And part of the point that I'm trying to get at here is, in kind of a roundabout way, right, is that a lot of the things that you might think are not even related to fear at all like, for instance, if you go back and maybe think about some of the trauma that you have from either childhood or earlier in life, a lot of the times, if you break them down even further, then the source of that trauma or the source of that negative feeling comes from fear. You might attribute it to one thing, but it turns out that if you break it down further, it's fear. You were afraid of something, and that might have been why you acted in that certain way, right? You might think of a trauma, and I'm being very general here so as to allow you to maybe kind of find a way to apply this to your situation, right? Is you might think that, okay, your action is the result of a particular trauma that you might have, right? But it turns out that, if you break that down even further, why did you commit that action in the first place? Why was that action thrust upon you in whatever way that it manifested itself in? And the answer to that is more than likely out of fear. You either did something or didn't do something because you were afraid of another outcome. You were either maybe afraid of somebody's reaction. That tends to be, the fear that fuels a lot of my actings in life. And here's another thing from the thread too. Now, the super blue moon brings peak energetic energies and precedes the new moon ahead, right? So this blue moon is an opportunity to plan and set intentions for a powerful transformation you want to undertake in your life ahead. Now, I'm not saying that, especially if you're more like not spiritually minded, if you're a little bit more secular in that case, then I'm not saying that this is not something that you would be able to possibly apply to you, right? And this also sounds like, isn't this something you should be doing anyway? And isn't this something that, you shouldn't be using like a fucking random full moon as an excuse for? But the coincidences between when I was thinking about this stuff and, seeing what the esoteric spiritual energies of the blue moon is supposed to imbue in you, it made a little bit too much sense, and it seemed a little bit too coincidental to me to not be a synchronicity, right? Again, I remembered it this time. It didn't have to take 6.5 minutes to look it up. So that's what I kind of did over the last few days since seeing this thread, right? Is now it says to use this night to plan and set intentions for a powerful transformation you want to undertake in your life ahead. That's something that I've been in the process of doing fairly lately. I want to say in the last few weeks, I've tried to break it down, narrow it down, especially because my dreams are fucking haunting me too. Like, I have been rethinking and going over various traumas that I've had from either childhood or earlier in life, and doing my own process of breaking them down and figuring out exactly what happened there. And the conclusion that I came to was, you know what caused most of them? You know what caused a lot of them is fear. I was afraid of how somebody would react to something. I was afraid of what it would mean. I was afraid of, again, that goes to the classic overthinking thing. I was afraid of what the ramifications would be for something, whether it be thinking of the past ramifications or the future ramifications of something. And fear, turns out, has held me back, and it is probably held you back from doing the thing that you want to do. Now, I guess I'll go into some of the actual real life applications of this now, which is, first of all, you know what I did recently? I did this exactly a week ago from today, actually. And here's something that I was afraid of, right? And again, this is going back to, and you'll find that this is a very common theme, right? Which is that, what am I trying to say here? That the reason that you're choosing not to do something, you might not even want to admit that it's fear, okay? But it turns out that it is. And I'll use a couple of examples from, myself and some of the stuff that I've been doing lately, and breaking down how it's just fear. And it turns out that everything that you want out of life is on the other side of fear. And when you break fear down even more loosely, one of the things that you got to think about when it comes to it is, well, sure, what's the worst thing that could happen, right? And I'll find that when I'm in a situation that fear ends up taking over, and I'll go back and look on it a little bit later on in that day, is what the fuck was the worst thing that could have happened there? Is, you know, you get a terrible reaction from somebody. Who cares? I don't know. So, first of all, what I did a week ago, let me clear that thread up, is finally, after 12 years, I've had for the last 12 years ridiculously long hair, right? I have not cut my hair since senior year of high school, and I'm 30 years old now. You know what? I cut my hair last week. I chopped it all off. I fucking grabbed all of it. I looked like an 80s rock star. I'm not turning the camera on for this. And also, that sounds ridiculously flattering to say that I looked like an 80s rock star. No. It was... Honestly, I kept the hair out of fear because A, I was afraid of change, and B, because, you know, a lot of the times it would elicit positive reactions out of people. Like, that would be the primary source of a lot of the compliments that I got. And there came a certain point where I was tired of it. Like, I didn't want that to be the thing that I'm getting complimented on. I would rather have it be something else. And it turns out when you break all of that stuff down even harder, when I broke all of that down even harder, I was afraid of change. I was afraid of what would happen if I just got rid of it, because I was ready. And I was huffing all of the copium to say, hey, wait a minute, this long hair looks pretty good. I had long, flowing, curly hair that by all intents and purposes could have looked good. I was keeping it for very stupid reasons, mostly because, you know, I wanted to see what it would look like if I had long hair and was jacked. But it turns out that, you know, that's going to take a little bit longer, and I didn't want to keep the hair for that long. It's going to take me a couple more months to get to that point. And I just didn't want to keep the hair for a couple months. I felt like it had negative energy attached to it. So what I did was last Thursday, I fucking grabbed all of it, just chopped it right off. Just got rid of it. I'm still keeping it in case I can donate it to charity or something. It's sitting in a fucking bag in my junk drawer right now. If anybody ever goes through that and just sees a giant bag of hair, I promise there's an explanation for that. It's not weird. It's actually for charity. But yeah, that's what I was afraid of for 12 years. Well, actually, not for 12 years. I enjoyed it for quite a long time. But the thing is, I got what I wanted out of it. I got compliments from people. You know, I got compliments from people that I was attracted to about it. And the fear part that also comes into play there is that, you know, whenever that would happen, whenever a situation like that would happen, I would always be afraid. I had the tool to get me in, but I would always be afraid of what would happen if you took it even further, right? And I felt like I was also afraid of just cutting it off and seeing what would happen, of venturing into the unknown, right? If that makes any sort of sense. But now that I realize that fear is the source of all the problems and everything that you want out of life is on the other side of fear, which is, I'm not saying that I stole that name. It's a name of a blog of a Substack from a very prominent right-wing Twitterer that I find interesting as a character, right? I'm not going to go farther into that. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. Whatever. He doesn't need any more fucking exposure. And I think of his content very positively, and it helps me out a lot. I just think it's interesting. Whatever. I'm not going to justify it. Come at me. But that was a source of big fear, right? Was, okay, what would happen if I cut my hair? And then the first time, I was also afraid of that reaction of the first time I go out in public and see every person that I see regularly, then, you know, that first reaction that I'm going to get from people that, oh my God, And that seemed like negative attention to me. I was also afraid of that. And so I fell into that sunk cost fallacy of, fuck it, I'm just not going to change at all. Not going to change it, period. I'm just going to keep going the way it's going and never change anything at all about it. So that's one of the things that I'm doing at the current moment now to kind of conquer and just shatter that fear in order to get to the other side. And I'm telling you now, a week later, it feels fucking great. In between all the very surface level stuff, between being able to get out of the fucking shower and immediately go to bed, being able to wear headphones without it being a pain in the ass, like, especially living in Florida, being able to go outside and not want to fucking kill myself, it's great. On a surface level, it's great. But on a mental level, too, it feels like I chopped off a whole bunch of negative energy, honestly. It feels like it's an excuse to kind of reinvent how I want to act in public. And in the last week, I've had much more natural and much more, like, I don't know, interesting conversations with people that I talk to in real life because of the fact that, the hair that I had was not a focal point. And I'm not saying that it was always a focal point of every conversation, but, it was one of those things that allowed me to, like, not feel comfortable in my skin, right? And so getting rid of that was a way to kind of take away a somewhat unique part of me that tended to take away a little bit more attention than, what I wanted to offer to people, which is a decent, like, conversation or a helpful conversation, or to make a positive impact in the people's lives who I talk to, right? And there came a point where I was afraid of getting rid of the hair because I was afraid of, okay, what would happen if I actually tried to make a positive impact in people's lives too? I was so used to I don't want to say the negativity, but I was so used to the status quo of, yeah, that's pretty much it. I was kind of used to, like, having that be the focal point, I guess. And here's the thing. I was so scared of what would happen after I chopped it off, but I think it looks better, honestly. Like, I think I'd look better with shorter hair. Again, I'm not going to turn the camera on for this. You'll just have to trust me. There will come a time where I'll turn the camera on and I'll show pictures of what I looked like with long hair and multiple tens of digits heavier. We'll get there at some point. I'm also afraid of giving up the things that I'm addicted to. I'm afraid of what's going to happen, for instance, if I finally decide to, like, stop watching the stuff that I'm addicted to watching. Like, again, I knew this would be a hard conversation, which is why it's hard to press the record button. But I'm afraid of what's going to happen when I finally decide that, to give up my toxic relationship with fucking watching esports, and particularly League of Legends. I've been doing that for also 11, 12 years. I've developed parasocial relationships with players that play the game. I don't play the game anymore because I don't fucking have hands. Not in a literal sense, but, in a game mechanics type sense. But basically, I have gotten to know the scene almost inside and out, and there came a point where I was dedicating so much of my time and mental energy to it that it became, all right, so what the fuck am I going to do? I either have to do something with this or I have to give it up. And I think I'm going to have to give it up. And you know what? I'm afraid of doing that. And I'm going to be doing that also soon. I think after this Worlds is over, I'm done with the game. I got to give it up. And I'm afraid of, again, it's that sunk cost fallacy. I'm afraid of giving up something that I've sank 10, 11, 12 years of my life into, because what will that time have resulted in? Nothing. Wasted time. But the past is the past. And you know what? As long as you do something with the time that you have now and in the future, then you'll be closer and closer to being able to be on your deathbed and say that you lived with as little regrets as possible. And the most regrets that people have on their deathbed is that they didn't conquer their fear and go after the thing that they wanted to go after, right? Another thing that I'm afraid of is leaving Florida. And I talked about this with my dad. We went and had pizza this last weekend, and my dad is moving up to Tennessee. I talked earlier on in previous episode about how my brother's currently up there right now because our family has connections to a rehab facility up there. My dad talked to me about how he's scared as shit. He's scared as fuck of going up there because, you know, at like 50, 60 years old, you know, in that age group, it's hard to give up an entire life that you've built and just kind of start over. It's easier for me because I'll be doing it at 30. And that's another thing that I'm afraid of. I'm going up there with them, by the way. It's not going to be in December like they are, but it'll be, you know, when the house gets sold. I have a little bit of money to go up there and do it too. But that's in the next few months. In the next 4 to 6 months, I'm leaving Florida. I'm giving up the life that I have here, that I've basically been here for my entire life, and going to go start somewhere new. Another thing that I'm afraid of is starting the business that I talked about in the last episode, because you know what it's going to require? It's going to require doing fucking like cold calling and sales, and that terrifies the fuck out of me. But you know what the worst thing that could happen there is? And I would like to think that by saying it out loud, I'm manifesting that the bravery to break through that fear. You know what the worst thing that could happen is that you get told to go fuck yourself. And you know what? It sounds terrible. And when it happens in the moment, it'll probably be terrible in that exact moment. But then afterwards, after it happens, you go, what? So what? I don't know. This is getting, I'm almost at the 30-minute mark. But, you know, I guess the overall point of this is that realize when fear is starting to take over, because I've been in a lot of situations too where I'll be aware that the only thing stopping me from doing something that I want to do in that moment is fear. And there will be a lot of times when fear will win and fear will take over you, and you'll end up not doing the thing that you think that you want to do, or the thing that you know that you want to do, but the only thing that is stopping you is fear. Fear is the only thing that's holding you back, and the only thing that is making you think that you're not capable of doing the thing that you want to get out and go chase, right? Whatever is impacting you at the time. You want to maybe try and find a different job. You want to try and date a person. You know what? You know what it's holding you back from asking people is fear. It's fucking fear, man. And I'm in the process of kind of cutting out all of the times in life. I say I'm in the process. That sounds so fucking excuse worthy, but it's not going to happen every time, you know, especially after you resolve and decide to try and cut fear out of your life as much as you can. The reality, the fact of life is that you won't be able to do it all the time. But you also cannot consider it a failure if you don't conquer it 100% of the time. The way to tackle this, and the thing that's helping me feel a little bit better about it, right, is the fact that, you know, each day, 1% more of the time, I'm letting fear conquer me less. And that should be how you approach it too. Straight up. Like, if every day you make one more correct decision that allows you to conquer fear, then that's a victory, right? I'm also afraid, I'm terrified of giving up vices. I was afraid of, I made a joke about it in the last segment, right? But I was legitimately afraid to quit vaping because I was afraid of what happens if I have a bad day. And since I tend to get angry about stuff, even not through bit, like I also get angry as a bit too, but I also do legitimately get angry at stuff over stupid shit. And I was also afraid, what happens when I don't have that outlet, when I get a little bit angry at something, to be able to just take a puff and let it all out, and that's how it goes. I was afraid. Am afraid. Still, I'm not saying that I've just conquered everything and I'm just not afraid of anything and I'm totally fearless now. But the way that I'm approaching this, and the way that you should approach it too, is to take one thing that you're afraid of at a time and conquer it. I'm not saying, again, because I'm definitely not doing it that way, right? There are still some things that I'm afraid of that, I've got to conquer one fear at a time, right? I'm afraid of moving. I'm afraid of giving my life up and starting over. I'm afraid of quitting my easy ass job where I know that, I can literally spend fucking 1-2 hours a day working, get all my shit done, and get paid a decent amount of money. I'm afraid of giving that up because I also know what it's like to have a terrible job. And I've been comfortable as fuck for the last 2 years of not hating my job. I'm afraid of giving that up because I'm afraid of going back to a job like the fucking post office. I've worked at Walmart for a time in the past. I'm afraid of going back to a job that I hate. I'm afraid of starting my own business. And you know what? Slowly, by forcing myself into it, you're going to realize at the end, because on the other side of fear is always that feeling, what the fuck were you afraid of? It wasn't so bad. That always wasn't so bad. That's what's on the other side of fear is it's not a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. That was what was on the other side of, the first few times that I asked somebody that I was romantically interested in to do stuff. Turns out that even after you get rejected, it's not that big of a deal. That's how it goes. Everything that you want is on the other side of fear. And even if you don't get it, guess what? You'll realize that that fear that had its hold over you, that was conquering you so hard, doesn't mean shit. It's nothing. Excuse me. Going a long, powerful rant and then just fucking burp in the middle of it. Nice. That was pretty much it, honestly. Disapproval of others, by the way, is also a very common fear. That it turns out that when you break a lot of your fears down, that's the cause of a lot of them, is disapproval from another person. But guess what? You're the only one living your life. Look at you. Look at yourself in the mirror. You are the only one living your life. You can't live in everybody else's head. Trust me, I've tried. Done a lot of drugs. I've tried. It doesn't work out. That's not how it goes. Excuse me. Did it again. I'm not going to edit that out either. So honestly, that's pretty much the crux of it is, and I'm not trying to give like a super motivational speech here that needed background music. And a lot of this was just common knowledge too. I know a lot of you are like,
my God,
yep.
who the hell cares?
Yeah. But the fact is that I'm at a pivotal point in life right now. And things had to change. And I was afraid of making that change. Still am afraid of making a lot of the changes that I haven't done yet. Like cutting my hair, by the way. You know what happened? I thought I wanted to do it for like months. And I thought that I would be incredibly sentimental about it. I thought I would chop it all off and go, oh my God, what did I do? I can't believe I just did that. I had long hair for 12 years. And you know what happened after I chopped it off? Put it in that fucking bag and put it in my junk drawer to maybe give to like Locks of Love or some shit. You know what happened after that? It felt great. It felt like good fucking riddance. It feels so much better not having that be your main point of recognition. Maybe now I can communicate with people as a real fucking human and not have that be the focal point. And not have that be like the thing that draws the most attention to you. And that's how it goes in other areas of life too. One thing at a time. And that's how you should take it too. Just one thing at a time. Sure, you're probably scared of like fucking 10, 12 things in the back of your mind, maybe, but take them one at a time. You don't have to conquer every single one of them right now at this very moment. Think of a deadline and just do it. Just do the thing that you're afraid of. And I promise you, 99% of the time, you will come out of the other end and say, what the fuck was I afraid of? What was the big deal? What was the big deal there? I can't believe it. It wasn't all that scary. Wasn't that bad? Anyway, all right. So I gotta... That'll just about do it for this episode. Plus, I gotta keep it at a certain time to post it on X. So that's it. I'll leave it on a high note. Coming up next time, by the way, may have an interview, or at least in the next few shows. Also, the new intro, and I think I'm going to keep the red background for a little while. I didn't even mention that at all. Not afraid of change. Change it up every now and then. We'll go back to the purple starry one eventually, too, but anyway, thanks for listening. Again, it's at Lighthouse_SJ on Twitter. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to YouTube. It's Lighthouse Shock Jock on YouTube. If you haven't pressed X already. Oh, yeah, by the way, don't listen. Don't subscribe. Don't do any of that stuff. Or do, because I'm afraid of just saying do. Or not. Anyway, bye. See you next time.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a... I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.